opioids continues to also be a significant problem in the black community, killing black folks at an alarming rate. According to researchers, opioid-related deaths in the black community have nearly tripled as their white counterparts are beginning to see a decline in fatalities. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, in 2015, opioid overdoses accounted for 6.6 out of every 100,000 deaths of African Americans. In 2019, it's now 17.1. Now that's a huge jump. And while overdose deaths among whites took place at more than twice the rate as blacks as recently as 2015, currently the rates have closed. As of 2019, opioid-related deaths accounted for 19.1 deaths per 100,000 in the black community. Overall, nearly 5,000 more black people died of an opioid overdose in 2019 than they did in 2015. This continues to be a significant issue. And keep in mind, when we talk about opioids, originally doctors were not prescribing African Americans opioids because they feared black folks were trying to get high. That's why I said racism actually helped black folks in that case. But we continue to see the opioid crisis and how it is taking the lives of more and more African Americans every single day. Adrienne Alexander Allen is the author of My Parents Have a Drug Problem, and we'll be talking to her in just a second. I do want to bring in also my panel today, A. Scott Bolden, former chair of the National Bar Association Political Action Committee. Amisha Cross is Democratic strategist, political commentator, and also Reverend Jeff Carr, founder of the Infinity Fellowship here in Nashville. Last name might be familiar, y'all. Every Thursday, you see his brother, Dr. Greg Carr, here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And so, Jeff, glad to have you on the show. We're going to go to the author in just a second, but let's talk about a combination of the death of Michael K. Williams, but also these opioid deaths. This is a significant issue, Amisha. And when you talk about, again, how you address it, initially, as I said, white folks are being prescribed opioids at a much higher rate than African Americans. Doctors were saying, white doctors were saying, oh no, black people are trying to get high. Now all of a sudden we're seeing the impact. Not only that, once people are on these opioids, now you have drugs that are laced with fentanyl, which is 100 times more potent than these opioids. And so we are seeing a significant problem. It was a major issue in the 2016 presidential campaign when all of a sudden white folks were saying, let's not throw our folks in jail, let's treat them a far cry when crack cocaine ravaged black communities in the 1980s and 90s.
You're absolutely right there, Roland. At the end of the day, we have seen such a varied response, such a disparate response when it comes to white America, particularly as it relates to opioids, because opioids were seen as the drug of white people, whereas crack cocaine was seen as the drug of black people. And we know that there are literally thousands of people that are still locked up based on addiction around crack. Meanwhile, the immediate response from the government, from a lot of those who are in power at various levels and private sector organizations, was that now we need to find treatment. We need to find prevention mechanisms. We need to make sure that we address the opioid crisis differently. And in large part, the only difference between the two of those crises was the color of the majority of people who were being affected. I think that when we talk about opioids, we also have to talk about the lead-in and how America got to where it is based on the fact that pharmaceutical companies in the 80s and 90s were basically giving out opioids as painkillers like candy to people and not really acknowledging the fact that long-term consequences of addiction were extremely known even by the pharmaceutical companies then, but they just ignored it. And many doctors knew it as well. So as you know, and as your audience probably knows, during the Derek Chauvin trial, we heard about George Floyd's issues with addictive properties related to opioids because of a previous medication he had for a back injury. What we recognize is that once individuals are off of those medications, they will find something to help them to get that same type of pain cure-all. And typically that is a street-level opioid drug. I think that we're seeing these levels increase in the African-American community because first and foremost, those drugs have become more easily accessible. But in addition to that, the tracking mechanisms around them are not as strong as the tracking mechanisms for, say, crack cocaine. What we've seen is that there has not been a heightened level of penalty or tracking of the actual drug dealers in a way that we've seen for certain other drugs. And it's devastating because the national conversation leaves black people out of the opioid crisis, even though we know by the numbers and the statistics you spoke of at the top of your question that it matters to the black community as well, and those numbers are only increasing. And I wish we pay more attention and put a spotlight on it, not just when a celebrity dies from an opioid addiction, but also when our neighbors, our brothers, brothers, our sisters, our cousins, people that we know personally and have a personal connection to are battling these crises every day.
Jeff, this is important because, again, you can see the difference in the attitude here. When I say that, you've had white folks now at these town halls who now all of a sudden have lots of compassion for people who are having drug issues who have issues with opioids. Many of them white. Same white folks did not have a lot of compassion for us. But now when we're seeing opioids exploding, now the question is, what does the black community do? How do we now target with education and the impact? Because again, this is not just affecting low to moderate income. This is affecting upper income folks as well who are losing their lives due to opioids.
Sure, Roland. And again, man, it's great to be on. It's great to be on a great show with my brother. I hadn't seen you since the old days of the Round Table on NPR. So it's good to be on. Good to see you behind that Edward Havell painting of the Fifth Jubilee singers that centered Nashville as Music City. Not country music, but that music that was the soulful music of the Jubilee singers. To follow up what Amisha was saying, it's about priority. And one of the first things we have to do is we have to destigmatize what drug use is. Drug use is not something that is simply limited to a person because of race or socioeconomic status. Drug use can become very easily, especially when we're talking about addiction, disease. I call it dis-ease because it's a space where there is not an ease in the spirit. As a longtime minister, as an inner spiritual minister, some of the work that I do involves intervention. And it also involves transporting young people in particular to safe spaces. I would never break that ministerial curtain and expose any of the people that I've worked with from around the country. But I will say this, opioid abuse has been a huge problem, particularly in the white community for a long time. They didn't treat it as if it was a stigma, as if someone was a crackhead or a pillhead. They treat it like a disease. I have been inside homes where a child has a room that is bigger in square footage than my house in a private jet. I have assisted in getting them to an intervention space where they can go and dry out for 30 days. Some of these spaces are hidden in mountains. Some of these spaces are in farms across the United States. And guess what? Some of them are $30,000 a month. Some of them are $30,000 a week. Celebrities, famous people from all over the world come to get treatment for dis-ease. We can be very easy. We can quickly start to stigmatize this, and that's why it becomes hidden. We put this energy underground because we start calling people crackheads. We start calling people addicts. And we start saying, hey, don't let your cousin in the house because you know they're going to steal everything you got. Because of that, there is a stigma attached to it. The reality is addiction is a disease, and it could very easily happen to any one of us. We can go to the dentist and be prescribed hydrocodone. We can take one more pill than we absolutely need, and before long, we can be in the street. The weed that many people are smoking in this day and age, they're hybrid strains of marijuana that contain up to 40% more THC than the weed that many of us were around in the 80s and 90s. So this is why we're starting to see this equalize in our community. And what we have to do is find ways to address the root causes of addiction and stop looking at it as if it is a stigma. White people have seen this for a long time, and that's why they created treatment. We have to be in a position to do the same.
So, Scott, look, when we talk about information coming to our community, the targeting, if you will, a campaign, an initiative, I mean, that's really going to have to be at play here to now deal. I mean, those opioid numbers are staggering to go from 6.6 to 17.1 per 100,000 in just 4 years.
Yeah, I agree with you, and they're keeping those numbers, and it's the numbers of African Americans who those numbers are going up. Let's be real honest. Drugs have always been part of America. There's a supply and demand, and black people and white people are part of that demand. But black people have always been overcounted and white people undercounted when it comes to the drug demand and the drug jurisdictions. I'm a former prosecutor from New York. I can tell you the courts are filled with black people and brown people. They weren't filled with white people. There's more white people in America than black people, and more white people do drugs than black people. It's just proportional. It's got to be. It's a very practical application. Not saying there's anything wrong, but I will tell you this, Roland. I was with Marion Barry when he got out of jail for smoking weed, right? And I remember he was running for mayor, and he went to the white part of Ward 3, and they really gave him a hard time. I mean, they called him a crackhead, and the media connotes crack with crime, which is why it was treated like a crime. And then obviously now the opioid crisis with white America, now we've taught them that it's a health issue conveniently for them. But I remember Marion Barry's response was that my problems with alcohol and drugs have to do is under the public spotlight. Your problem with alcohol and drugs and your family's problems with alcohol and drugs, it's just not on the public spotlight. You're no different than me. You have someone in your family or you are addicted to drugs or alcohol. So don't judge me, if you will. And I got to tell you, he overcame that crowd of people that didn't look like him because he spoke from the heart. It is a national, it is an American problem. And so this isn't Democrat or Republican. It's got to be all of us in America. You reduce the demand, you put drug dealers out of business, the ones who are middlemen and the ones who are higher up. We just can't get rid of the demand.
I want to go pull in my guest, author Adrienne Alexander Allen. Adrienne, glad to have you on the show. So obviously these are significant numbers. So the question now is, what is going to be the campaign to begin to teach and educate people about the dangers of opioids? How are we going to reach African Americans on this issue?
Roland, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. It all speaks to education, as we said. But one of the main issues with education is that we aren't educating the masses. When it comes to dealing with addiction, opioid use, abuse, and all types of drugs, we are dealing with the addict first and not the family. We know that families are affected. We know that children are affected. So we need to do mass education when it comes to teaching people about the effects of opioid addiction. When it comes to these things, people act as if it doesn't matter, it doesn't happen. As you mentioned, they created this opioid epidemic in 2017 when in the 80s and 90s, like you said, we weren't getting that same attention with crack and everything, heroin that was affecting our communities. And, we see the characters that Michael K. Williams and others on The Wire play. Those are real life individuals that each and every one of us have come in contact with. And so we need to start educating more about the effects and the youth that are affected by drugs, because this also, we are missing a whole demographic of people. We aren't talking to the children who are growing up in these homes with addicted parents and addicted family members. We're talking to the addict, but we're not telling the children, listen, I know this is your life. This is what you were born into, but you need to learn that this does not have to be your reality going forward. And if we start touching these children, because as we see, each generation has become more enamored with drug use and making drugs popular. And so we need to teach them that when you die from drug use or drug abuse, you can't come back. You see your friends pass away, like that should be a learning and a teachable moment for you to understand that drug use is real and that you need to be better educated on the effects of drug use. This fentanyl that we're seeing now, when you see it, fentanyl, is lethal in small doses. You touch it and you can die, you can overdose. You don't even have to ingest it. So we have to use more education when it comes to drugs and drug use.
One of the issues that you also have to deal with is the racism that was initially in all of this, where you have white doctors who are not prescribing African Americans opioids. But we also, though, have to have a real federal drug policy that is not one focusing on criminalization, but there's one that's focusing on treatment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that for us, for me
Adrienne?
personally,
Yeah, go ahead.
growing up in Baltimore, we saw the methadone clinics. We saw, quote unquote junkies. We saw them using a drug to counter counter effect the effects of other drug use. And so when you use methadone, I've seen so many stories of children who died from overdosing from methadone, which was supposed to have been a treatment. And so we have to find other ways, and it needs to be a full body treatment, right? Like it has to be emotional, mental, physical. It needs to be every aspect taken into consideration when it comes to treatment options for these people.
So now, again, when we look at one of these reports, and we saw so much attention that was being focused on the Republican presidential candidates. Trump talked about how he was going to fix the problem. You had Chris Christie talking about this thing as well. So Adrian, now the question is, are we going to see more public officials talking about this, providing the funding needed to ensure that we're creating the kind of public service campaigns targeting African Americans, again, Black-specific programs that we understand to reach our people on this very critical issue?
It's funny that you say that because we hear so much about Hunter Biden, right? It's like they have made such a big deal about Hunter, but not about DJ Jr., DT Jr., excuse me. So I feel like they know that the programming is needed. We know that they know that the money and the funding is needed for African-American people, but will they do it? I feel like they just aren't there yet. I feel like it's going to be us as a community to figure out those ways to get these grants, to get these funds, and to start these programs. Because if we leave it up to them, I honestly don't see it happening.
All right, then. Look, we certainly appreciate you joining us again, folks. The book is called My Parents Have a Drug Problem. The author, Adrian Alexander Allen. Thanks a lot. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, Seek.com is a Black-owned company founded by Mary Spio. It's a virtual reality company where you can actually go there, look at their virtual reality content. A couple of devices they actually have for sale that you might be interested in. First off, their VR headset allows for you to slide your phone right in and experience that virtual reality content on their site or watch a 360-degree video. Also, their 360-degree headphones, tremendous bass, you can use it for gaming, Bluetooth, phone calls, you name it. Folks, you can get these two at Seek.com using this promo code RMVIP21, RMVIP21. You buy one or the other, or even both. A portion of the proceeds come back to us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. And so we want you to check out Seek.com and give it a try. A Chicago police lieutenant has become the third member of the department to be arrested on felony charges in recent weeks. The Cook County State's Attorney Office alleges that Lieutenant Wilfredo Roman shoved a flashlight into the buttocks of a teenager carjacking suspect in February. Roman appeared in court Thursday on aggravated battery and official misconduct charges and was released on his own recognizance. Earlier this week, two other officers were arrested in connection with another incident on similar charges. Terrain, I don't recall seeing a statement from the Fraternal Order of Police on this one. But here's the other deal. Where's the body camera footage?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Where is the cam footage? Because if you read the story, the officer's attorney says it was a spanking. Come on, this was just a spanking.
First of all, why is the cop spanking somebody? Hold on, I'm sorry, hold up. Hold up. If it's a spanking, that's called assault.
That is called an assault. But what is incredible to me, it goes back to what Brittany was saying. They don't see us as humans, Black and brown skin, as being human. And so they're going to spank you like a child. If you're a young man, they're going to just stick a baton in your rear and say, oh, it's okay because he had a coat on. There's no justification for this. That's an assault. Entering someone's rectum, whether it is an attempted entry or it's an actual entry, that is assault and it's a sexual assault. That's what we haven't gotten to yet. And they're trying to soft shoe it, but there was no rhyme and no reason. And I'm wondering, where is the body cam footage? What is the justification for doing this? Because nothing about this alleged carjacking suspect indicates that he needed to be searched in his rectum with a flashlight.
Shades of Abner Louima, Michael.
Absolutely. And, you know, reading the story here, it says the incident was captured on an officer's body camera. And so I want to know where the body camera footage is, since it was captured. But then the officer's lawyer says that there was no injury to the teen as he was clothed and wearing a coat during the alleged incident. But still, it's like you don't have to actually steal something out of somebody's house. Just breaking into the house is a crime. You don't actually have to like steal something out of the house. So, you know, this officer needs to be held accountable. I want to see the statement from the Fraternal Order of Police. I know they're going to put one out eventually. So, you know, this is a crazy case, man, out of Chicago. But this is an example why these officers have to be held accountable, and they need to release this body camera footage as well. So this is another crazy story, man. But at the same time, with these various cases taking place, people who want, at the same time, many of us are going to have to apply to these police departments and be the type of officers that we want to see as well. As they weed out people like this, as they weed out these white supremacist officers, things like this, many of us are going to have to apply to these departments and be the type of police officers who serve and protect that we want to see also.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, Seek.com is a black-owned virtual reality company founded by Mary Spio. That's right, VR is all the rage. The ability for you to be able to actually be immersed in the space to feel what's going on. Imagine being at a concert and you're watching the concert, but you're actually in the seat in the concert. And so that you can able to see that great videos and all kinds of different things on Seek.com. Using their VR headset, you simply just drop your phone right into here. And again, you're able to then immerse yourself in the experience right there. Also, of course, they have these great headphones right here, the 360-degree headphones. You can use this for gaming. It's Bluetooth. You can talk on them as well. The bass is tremendous. I love jamming these when I'm on airplanes. Folks, you can get these by going to Seek.com using the promo code RMVIP21, RMVIP21, where you can get these. And when you purchase one or both of these, a portion of the proceeds comes back to us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. You know, we support black-owned businesses, and it's the black-owned businesses giving back to us as well. So go to Seek.com, CEEK.com, to get these items. There is indeed trouble in the state of Louisiana. A new Associated Press investigation identifies at least a dozen cases in which Louisiana state troopers concealed or ignored evidence of misconduct. Folks, 67% of the altercations involving use of force in recent years have targeted African Americans. That's double the percentage of the state's black population. Now, get this. The findings reveal a former officer, Jacob Brown, was involved in 23 use of force cases dating to 2015. 19 of them were black. Jacob resigned in March and is charged with aggravated second-degree battery and malfeasance in office. Now, that's that case there. You also have this case where a high-ranking Louisiana police officer would not face any charges or disciplinary action related to the death of Ronald Green. Lieutenant John Clary was cleared of all misconduct charges related to the violent death of the black motorist in 2019. Clary was accused of lying about the existence of his body cam video to keep it from state police investigators. However, officials say a lack of evidence has yielded no form of discipline for the officer. In 2019, Ronald Green was killed after being viciously beaten by Louisiana police officers during a traffic stop. Folks, serious issues with police there in Louisiana. And so normally what you would have is you would have the state police who would be investigating these cases, but clearly by the AP investigation, you have problems with the state police. Joining me right now is Louisiana State Representative Ted James. Representative James, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. First and foremost, you know, the Louisiana State Troopers are supposed to be the best of the best. They are supposed to be the agency that investigates crimes happening around the state, especially those involving police officers. Here you have supervisors, bosses, hiding evidence, lying. Why are heads not rolling among Louisiana State Police? What is Governor John Bel Edwards doing?
We have, as a caucus, we've called on the federal government because our governor has been very slow to respond. When these allegations first came to light last year due to the work of the NAACP here and the AP, we requested a new colonel. We got a new colonel, an African-American colonel, and it seems like every week we're learning of a new lie, a new cover-up. I listened to you articulate, you know, what's going on with Lieutenant Colonel Cleary. Not a single officer, not a single trooper has been disciplined for the death of Ronald Green. On the other hand, a black trooper who has come out and has provided information about all of the cover-ups, about all of the use of force issues in state police, he's been removed. So you have a black man who has come to light with information that has received a more strict discipline than any of the troopers that were involved in the Ronald Green death. We have a huge problem here at Louisiana State Police, and that's why the Black Caucus has asked the feds to come in and do a full-scale investigation.
So Lieutenant John Clary was actually a Louisiana State Trooper.
Yes.
Okay, so he was not a police officer; he was a state trooper. And so
yes.
This AP story, when you talk about you know, all these different things here, this is wrapped up in it. And even in that Green story, they lied about what actually happened to Green.
Oh, they told his family that he died in a car accident. And when we saw the pictures of the car, we knew that he didn't die in a car accident. And it took us almost threatening the administration to make sure that they allowed Ronald Green's family to see the video that we saw that was leaked a few months ago. The family and some of us, and I saw that video last year, and we knew within the first few minutes that the troopers on the scene, not only the troopers on the scene, not only did they lie, but their superiors, and Cleary being one of them, one of the highest ranking ones that was on the scene, he lied. And we saw that he was rewarded with, not only was he not disciplined, he has a high profile job. He was all on national television escorting around one of our football coaches. He's since been removed from that. But the problem is, I don't want him removed from a detail. I want him removed from the agency at large.
And so the fact that you have Clary, no disciplinary action against him, even though he basically lied, he said one thing, with the body cam footage said another thing, and the fact that they said that he died in a car accident when we now know that's an absolute lie. Seriously, no action?
Look, Cleary, not only did he lie about what the footage showed, he lied about the existence of the footage. And it wasn't until almost a year later that the footage was discovered. Now, the main trooper who beat Ronald Green committed suicide the day he learned that he was going to be terminated. There were still troopers on the scene that deserved to be brought to justice, right? If myself and you and another friend of ours, if we go and beat the hell out of somebody and I kill myself, you will certainly be charged, right? As an accessory, I could list at least 5 or 6 different things that these troopers should be charged with. And right now we're waiting on the federal government. Of course, there's a DA in North Louisiana who, if he wanted to, he could pursue charges now. You know, I understand, and way too often these cases,
district attorneys tell us we're going to wait and see what happens with the federal government. But you can move independent.
Yeah,
of
they don't have
what's
to.
happening.
They don't have to. In fact,
wait.
the feds wait on the state folks.
You know, and what we're seeing, I certainly, there is one glimmer of hope, and it's very small. I would not have trusted Donald Trump Justice Department to do the right thing. So there is a small glimmer of hope in that there's a new administration, right? I'm hoping that this administration does not let us down. I've had countless conversations with the DOJ because our caucus sent a letter to the Civil Rights Division, and we've asked not just with the Ronald Green, because we already know Ray Charles can see that they lied about Ronald Green. We've asked for a full-scale, top-to-bottom investigation into the entire department, because what we've learned is that not only have these things been accepted, they've been cheered on. We have countless reports of text messages where troopers have bragging about beating the hell out of people and bragging about the fact that they're going to think about that beating for a long time. They're one of the attorneys for state police whose husband is a trooper. There have been reports about how she's coached troopers to get out of use of force complaints by charging motorists in the state, most of them black, with resisting arrest. She's since been removed, but not fired. So there are issues that are deeply ingrained. And, you know, for me, I'm one that asked the governor to make sure that we put somebody at the top of state police, somebody, a man of color. And, you know, as much as I respect Colonel Davis, I'm starting to lose confidence in his leadership, because every week we're learning of something else that has been a lie, something else that has been a cover-up at state police.
What is also confusing here is that when we talk about Cleary lying, he said that he did not have any body cam footage. That's a lie. But the investigators call them mischaracterizations. I'm sorry, that's a lie.
Yeah, it's a bold-faced lie. And you mentioned it very plainly. The unfortunate thing is we have to look at not just the issues within state police, but every single use of force incident that they have investigated for other law enforcement agencies. Now, all of those things have come into question. Because if you know that there's a pattern of acceptance, if there's a pattern of cheering on troopers that are beating the hell out of black people, of course they're going to overlook when black people get their heads bashed in by other agencies. So in this request that we made to the feds, I think we need to go back at every single use of force complaint, every single officer involved incident that the state police has been called upon to investigate prior to 2016, when we knew all of these issues were 2019, when we knew all of these issues were taking place.
And yeah, more pressure needs to be placed on the governor. He's a Democrat. Without black folks, he would not have been reelected. We absolutely know that. And he needs to step up, not be scared of Republicans, and have the courage to do, frankly, what Mitch Landrieu did when he was the mayor of New Orleans, when he called in the federal government to study and assess the corrupt New Orleans Police Department.
Look, and we've been putting pressure on it. The governor is a friend of mine. I stood on the stage with him both times when he won. And this is not something that we have allowed him to just escape. Right now, of course, you know, we're in the middle of still recovering from a natural disaster, but this is still an issue for the caucus. We had one of our members send a letter out today. We've requested every single use of force incident from January 1st, 2019 to present. What has been the disposition? What is the race of the person that alleged some type of use of force against state police? What were they initially charged with? We still don't know today why the state police, why they were even trying to apprehend Ronald Green. Here we are almost 3 years later. We still don't know what the underlying issue was. But we do know is that they lied, and we do know that they killed their brother.
Louisiana State Representative Ted James, we certainly appreciate it. Certainly keep us abreast of what happens with this case.
Thank you, sir.
want to bring in my panel right now, Dr. Greg Carr. He is, of course, professor with Afro-American Studies, Howard University. Also, Reese Colbert, Black Women Views, Raji Muhammad, radio and TV host. Glad to have all three of you here. This is one of the things that we consistently talk about, Reese, when people say, "Oh, good cops, bad cops." Yeah, but the bottom line is this: here, this is not one, this is not two, this is not three. This is more than a dozen, and I dare say there's probably more if you really, really keep looking.
Absolutely. I mean, this is basically state-sanctioned terrorism against Black members of the community who are just going about their business. I mean, in some cases, there were people who were suspected of doing some serious crimes, but I don't understand how a traffic stop escalates to the point of death. And then the amount of lying and concealing about these things is very troubling and distressing. But the worst part is that even when it does come to light, there are no consequences. Investigations are worthless. When all of these investigations do is say there's not enough evidence, well, change the standard of proof, change the burden of proof, bring some charges in these cases, find something to charge people with. Just like when y'all find something to charge Black people with, when you go fucking with Black people and arrest them and you call it resisting arrest, find some trumped up charge to try to get some of these cops and these state troopers who are out here terrorizing Black and Latino people. And it's not just that they're the only victims. There was a white victim that was beaten to a pulp beyond recognition as well. The other thing I will say is this is where the Merrick Garland Justice Department needs to step in and resume the practice of pattern and practices investigations. I know I say investigations aren't very useful, but the consent decrees does actually inject a level of federal oversight that absolutely needs to be there. And it requires some reforms to be made where maybe there's no political will. You mentioned Governor John Bel Edwards to go up against the police. That's where the federal government comes in. That's where the Department of Justice comes in and hopefully gives some degree of change. But there's no justice for the Ronald Green family. And it's really, really just troubling, beyond troubling, to understand the insidiousness of what these troopers were up to and what they're probably still up to this day, because nobody is having any reason to do anything differently.
Check this out, Faraji. Cleary, who arrived at the scene, go to my computer, please. Cleary, who arrived at the scene just seconds after troopers stunned, choked, and punched Green to get him into handcuffs, told investigators that Green, quote, was still yelling and screaming, and he was still resisting, even though he was handcuffed. He was still trying to get away and was not cooperating. Investigators wrote in a 6-page report filed less than 3 weeks ago that Cleary's description of Green's demeanor after he was cuffed on a dark roadside near Monroe was clearly a mischaracterization, also known as a lie. Though they did not state it explicitly, the false statements were apparently intended to justify further uses of force by troopers against the prone Green that included dragging him face down by his ankle shackles and spraying him in the face with pepper spray. Quote, the video evidence in this case does not show Green screaming, resisting, or trying to get away, Detective Albert Paxton wrote in the new report. The only screams revealed by the video were when Green responded to force applied to him. The report added that Cleary's own video, published last week by the Associated Press and later released by the state, shows Green, quote, lying on the ground, face down, handcuffed behind his back, leg shackles on his ankles, uttering the phrases, "I'm sorry," or "I'm scared," or "yes, sir," or "okay." Green was forced to be face down for 9 minutes. And this is what Cleary yelled. "Don't you turn over. Lay on your belly. Lay on your belly," Trooper Corey York yells before briefly dragging Green by the chain that connects his ankle shackles. Lieutenant Cleary's video clearly shows Green to be suffering, Paxton wrote in the new report, adding that the handcuffed man can be heard, quote, gasping for air. Though what happens to Green next cannot be seen on the video, investigators wrote that, quote, Green's eyes are squeezed shut as he shakes his head back and forth, moaning in pain, movements consistent with having been sprayed in the face with pepper spray. So you mean to tell me all of that, and they can't figure out what in the hell to charge this guy with or write him up?
Yes, and Brother Roland, I think that we need to say it Clary needs to go to prison. The whole damn police department needs to be broken down. When I heard the representative talking about the fact of the Justice Department coming in, we know that the pattern of practice, investigation, and all of that. The big thing is that the United States federal government, the Department of Justice, has the power to come in and to really dismantle police departments and start them back up again. Why they have not done that, I don't know. But I'm happy that they're starting an investigation. But they need to go in like the same way they went in what we saw with Ferguson after Mike Brown. They need to go in and just completely fire everybody or lock people up. And that's all that has to be done, because the trust of the American people is totally gone. I mean, of the people of Louisiana. There can't be no trust, especially among black folks. And I saw that based upon this report, Brother Roland, 67% of those who have been involved in being brutalized by the police are black people. So when you have that number, when you have these things, and then when you have that type of evidence, you have the body cam footage, you have the other officers, you got an officer who killed himself. I mean, this is all leading to the fact that these jokers were guilty. And one big thing very quickly that we have to keep in mind, there was another story about some years ago about what has happened in Minneapolis, what has been happening in Portland. The problem comes down to, you can give people good guidelines, but they have to have the heart, the mind, and the spirit to follow the rules. And when you're seeing that police officers don't have that, then only a few things got to happen. One is either the federal government got to intervene and be broken down by the Department of Justice. Two, the state that is responsible for the funding of the government, they have to be brought to task. Or three, you got to go to the police union in that state and bust the hell up that police union, because police unions serve as like gangs in protecting their own. And so if we don't go after go to the root of the problem, which is corruption within the police departments and these unions, then we're not going to see the justice that we deserve.
Check this out, Greg. Go back to my computer, please. Another false statement noted in the report was when Cleary told investigators that his troopers sat Green up and, quote, immediately held his head up so he could get a clear airway. Clary's video, however, showed troopers saying they didn't want to sit Green up because they were afraid he would spit blood on them. Then don't do that, Cleary tells them. Even after Green became unresponsive and troopers sat him up, his head was slumped down on his chest, and they did not make a move to lift his head to make a clear airway for nearly 6 minutes. How does all of that happen? And you don't charge anyone. I have repeatedly said on this show that laws must be changed, that if you or Reese or Faraji or myself, if any of us lied to police, they could charge us. Mm-hmm. Cops lie, nothing happens. To me, the least you can do is simply discipline him by saying you knowingly lied to investigators, and he should be fired and should be facing some type of charges.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one thing we might say at the onset is that we must use all tools at our disposal: elected officials, the courts, right, the Justice Department. So that's number one. But I'll say, having said that, there's no we. There's no historical evidence for any concept called the American people. The legal framework is one thing. The historical, cultural, social entity is quite another. You see, and shout out, by the way, to both Louisiana Tech and Mississippi State for continuing to employ cats like John Clary, because the thing that black people are useful for is running them down a football field. And ask yourselves a question. Do a little research. And let's ask ourselves, when did state troopers need to be there to protect football coaches? I suspect if you tug on the history of the slave economic concern, some people call it the Southeastern Conference, you will probably find some race involved there as well, because they take their football quite seriously in this country.
Yeah, actually, you're right, because I mean, I've seen many games, and I'm sitting there going, why are there troopers? Why? I mean, first of all, you got university police. Football teams have security. Why? And it's a thing now when you watch all these games where you have these state troopers next. It's weird to me as well.
Well, Roland, I think that's actually a very good question. I know you just came back from Fisk. You might put some of your young journalist lieutenants on that, do that research, because I think what we'll find is that football, like everything else in this country, is very militaristic. And so John Clary's at home there. And by the way, the mistake made by the state police training investigator, the instructor rather, that led to discovering this tape, I'm sure that was a mistake, because I'm sure they were probably using it to reinforce what you should be able to do to escape punishment. But the key in this is NHI, as the philosopher Sylvia Wynter says, there were no humans involved. Let's think about this. The police are an entity, law enforcement. But the concept of policing has been turned into a verb. What does policing mean when there are no humans involved? It's a verb: managing, hunting, controlling, harming, and killing, because there are no humans involved. Ron Green's not a human being. We have to understand this technique. When you turn off your body camera, you've introduced another layer of obfuscation and murkiness. And so what you're really trying to avoid is the intent standard. And all you have to do to match the intent standard is say, I had another reason. So I'm saying all that to say this. At the end of the day, we have to understand that these people are our enemies. And by that, I mean anybody who's a human being. These are our common enemies. And there's no murkiness to the side you have to be on. Now, I should mention this as well. It's important to understand that there's also an issue of federalism involved. As we listen to Representative James at the state level, and we talk about the local level, and I agree, everything should be pursued. I agree with everything you said, Faraji, everything you said, Reese. At the same time, we understand that Merrick Garland, whose kind of weakness was one of the reasons he was confirmed as Attorney General and even nominated to be on the Supreme Court, is not going to push the limits of the test of federalism. Because what we are seeing now is the state, controlled by white nationalists, are literally testing the limits of federalism. They are daring the federal entity to create this illusion of American community by intervening on open Klansmen. Y'all seen the movie The Mac? Remember when the guy says, shade tree, you ain't no pimp. Well, let's remix that. Shade tree government. You ain't no community. You just a rest haven for the Klan. State by state, they are daring something to come into existence which never existed before, namely, quote, the American people. And so I'm encouraged by things like this, because one way or the other, this cat gonna be punished. Prison's only one form of punishment. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Well, we certainly will see what happens there. And yeah, DOJ absolutely. And here's the deal. The Civil Rights Division can launch that investigation. That needs to happen. And that DA in northern Louisiana, yeah, folks, that's called being real close with police there.
Roland?
Huh?
I said Hurricane Ida didn't hit Louisiana out of coincidence.
Well, first of all, hit Louisiana out of coincidence because Louisiana's, frankly, is in Hurricane Alley. I've been from Houston, but the bottom line is this here. We have seen this before where these white DAs in Louisiana do not want to pursue anything with police officers, which is why you got to have state authorities like state troopers investigate, but they'll have thugs on that force. This is where DOJ needs to step in. And I would hope and I appreciate Representative James saying they've been calling on Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards, but how about putting even more pressure on him and publicly protesting him and calling people to the state capitol, calling people to the governor's mansion? That's right. And also, how about calling on black football players at Louisiana State University not to play? Come on. See, that's right. I got to remind folks. The only reason the Confederate flag is off of the Mississippi State flag, because when that black running back said, "I ain't playing," and then and then all of a sudden, those white coaches all around Mississippi said, "Hey, we getting phone calls, black players not coming to Mississippi State and Ole Miss and in Southern Miss and all those schools." That's when Mississippi said, yeah, we gonna get this thing off our flag, and that's why it is gone. So again, to all of you parents,
that's right,
who have kids who are playing ball at Louisiana State, football and basketball, that's right, have some conversations with your kids. That's right. And have those black ball, and see, And see, this is real simple. See, everybody forgets, Reese, Greg, and Faraji. The University of Missouri football players threatened a boycott.
I remember.
Threatened. And let me tell you what happened. Money dried up, enrollment dropped. It has taken University of Missouri 3 years to still recover from that. All I'm saying is, this is where black athletes get your little courage like Kaepernick and say, no federal investigation, we might not play on Saturday. Trust me, you'll see how fast the governor calls for the feds to come in.
That's right.
That's all I'm saying. Let's see what they do. And it's not just LSU.
Nope.
Southern and Grambling.
Come on.
Y'all are state institutions.
That's right.
Those players, you can do the exact same thing. So let's see what happens here. And so that's why, folks, you've got to be able to willing to call some folks out and use your power. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, Seek.com is a black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. It's a virtual reality company where you can actually go there, look at their virtual reality content. A couple of devices they actually have for sale that you might be interested in. First off, their VR headset allows for you to slide your phone right in and experience that virtual reality content on their site or watch a 360-degree video. Also, there are 360-degree headphones, tremendous bass, you can use it for gaming, Bluetooth, phone calls, you name it. Folks, you can get these two at Seek.com using this promo code RMVIP21, RMVIP21. You buy one or the other, or even both. A portion of the proceeds come back to us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. And so we want you to check out Seek.com and give it a try.
If you can identify with R. Kelly personally, then you're a motherfucking degenerate. Point blank period. And maybe your ass need to be up under the jail right along with R. Kelly. Okay, so let's, instead of talking about protecting the legacy and the black man who was sitting up there allegedly until proven guilty, I guess, raping and terrorizing and kidnapping and abusing women, men, children, families. If you can justify that because he's a black man, there's something seriously wrong and demented with your mentality. There's nothing wrong with us talking about it. It's something wrong with your ass and how you think, okay? So why don't we put a little bit more emphasis on protecting victims, on protecting girls, boys, people, black people, the community, how about that, from a sexual predator? Why don't we put more emphasis on that than the fact that you like R. Kelly's Bump and Grind or 12 Play?
Come on.
Check yourself. Don't come over here with that mess. Check yourself and your fucked up mentality.
That's right.
Period.
I'm trying to see. There was at least one MF, at least 4 Fs.
Sorry, not sorry. Because we're not going to normalize that kind of comment.
Oh,
you are
absolutely.
literally trying to check us for talking about testimony in the court of law under the threat of perjury or of criminal penalties, and you're trying to check us because we're talking about what this man, this degenerate, this pedophile, this sexual serial predator allegedly is doing? Check yourself. Don't come over here with that. Check yourself. Look in the mirror, and we need to be find out who the hell your ass is around. If you think that what he's done is something that's redeemable, that should be protected, that should be shielded, what the hell is wrong with you? There's something wrong with you, not us, and not the Roland Martin Unfiltered show.
That's right. That's right. Hey, Roland, it's okay. Reese got to say that in the words of Miss Lauryn Hill. I add a motherfucker so you ignorant Negroes hear me. In other words, you can't.
That's the only way we can communicate. I'm sorry.
You know, she
Intellectually, it didn't work. It didn't register with intellectual. So let me throw one of those up, and maybe you'll hear it, and you can tweet me, and you can fry me up in the YouTube comments, and you can say whatever the hell you want to say. But I said what I said. Fuck R. Kelly and you too. How about that? That's not unbiased. That's my opinion.
Gotcha. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, Seek.com is a black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. It's a virtual reality company where you can actually go there, look at their virtual reality content. A couple of devices they actually have for sale that you might be interested in. First off, their VR headset allows for you to slide your phone right in and experience that virtual reality content on their site or watch a 360-degree video. Also, there are 360-degree headphones, tremendous bass, used for gaming, Bluetooth, phone calls, you name it. Folks, you can get these two at Seek.com using this promo code RMVIP21, RMVIP21. You buy one or the other, or even both. A portion of the proceeds come back to us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. And so we want you to check out Seek.com and give it a try. Folks, let's stay in Minnesota, where attorneys for 3 of the other officers on trial for killing George Floyd, they now want to keep the trial from being broadcast and live streamed. Go to my computer, please. The request came from the attorneys for Thomas Lane, Jay Queen, and Tal Thao. Earlier they wanted the trial to be publicly broadcast. Now they're saying that, that if this is streamed, that there are people who are not going to want to testify if they do so. Terrain, that's quite interesting. That's quite interesting there on that particular point. By saying that, if it's streamed, there are people they're not going to testify. Really?
They don't have a choice. A subpoena is a subpoena. It's not an invitation. So they don't.
Well, you're saying there's no party flyer, huh?
No, there's no RSVP. You just show up or you go to jail. And it's very simple. And so I think what's happening is that these officers and their defense teams are seeing how the live stream of the trial worked out in the first trial. And it didn't work out very well there for Derek Chauvin. I mean, we were able to see, and we talked about this, his reaction to the jury and just how he reacted to the testimony about the death of George Floyd. And so it's not to their benefit to have it publicly broadcast. This has nothing to do with their witnesses. Their witnesses have no say-so whether or not they come or go. So this is a defense. And you know what? I respect that. I respect that. You do what you have to do to protect your client. So if your client, if it's not looking like it's going to work out well for this to be broadcast for your client, then you try to shut that down.
This is what they wrote, Michael. Cameras in the Chauvin courtroom brought us to the dangerous pass where people are deterred from testifying for the defense because they fear the wrath of the crowd. Mm-hmm.
Well, wait a second. Before Derek Chauvin was convicted, you wanted the trial to be broadcasted. You wanted the trial to be live streamed. Now that it didn't go the way you thought it was going to go, now you changed course. See, the question I would ask, on cross-examination, I would ask the question, what changed between when you first made that statement, okay, because the evidence didn't change, basically, okay? So what changed between when you first made that statement, you wanted it broadcasted, and all of a sudden now you don't want to broadcast it? But I find it interesting that they're saying this now. When you had African-Americans who testified, okay, in the Derek Chauvin trial, it was broadcasted. When you had the case of Darnella Frazier, we heard her voice, but we did not see her face, okay? You can do the same thing for these people who you're claiming don't want to testify and have it live streamed. We can just hear their voice. We don't have to see their face. So, when they make changes like this, I just have to ask the question, okay, so what changed before when you were talking all that stuff, selling wolf tickets, before the verdict, and all of a sudden you don't want to have it live streamed?
Yeah, it is. It's quite interesting there, Brittany. Maybe it's because, you're afraid of that conviction?
Roland, they know they're about to get chewed up, spit out, and locked up. And the court of a public opinion is important. And we've seen that with the last couple of cases. They know what's about to happen. And that's why that quick switch happened, right? Now they don't want it to be public. So they know they're about to get locked up.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, the transcript of what they're going to testify to is going to be made public.
Right.
So it's not as if they can testify in secret and say, well, I said, he's a great guy. Nobody's going to know it. So this is simply for the defense. They know it is not, this is an uphill battle for them in the court of public opinion.
Yeah. And again, if you've already convicted Derek Chauvin, you know they are concerned. Back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, Sync.com is a black-owned virtual reality company founded by Mary Spio. That's right, VR is all the rage. The ability for you to be able to actually be immersed in the space to feel what's going on. Imagine being at a concert and you're watching the concert, but you're actually in the seat in the concert. And so you can able to see that great videos and all kinds of different things on Seek.com. Using their VR headset, you simply just drop your phone right into here. And again, you're able to then immerse yourself in the experience right there. Also, of course, they have these great headphones right here, the 360-degree headphones. You can use this for gaming. It's Bluetooth. You can talk on them as well. The bass is tremendous. I love jamming these when I'm on airplanes. Folks, you can get these by going to Seek.com using the promo code RMVIP21, RMVIP21, where you can get these. And when you purchase one or both of these, a portion of the proceeds comes back to us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. You know, we support black-owned businesses, and it's the black-owned businesses giving back to us as well. So go to Seek.com, CEEK.com, to get these items. I got to talk about this here. Of course, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, he is under lots of criticism for the voter suppression bill that was passed, but also the bill, the 6-week abortion ban bill. He said something today by signing this that I'm absolutely astounded by how stupid he is, Teresa. Let me actually read this because y'all might think I'm lying. Greg Abbott actually said that people should not be concerned that women are going to be carrying the baby of a rapist to term because he's going to end rape in Texas.
It'll be a miracle.
Yes, I know some of y'all might think I'm crazy, but trust me, I'm not. Greg Abbott actually said this, Teresa, when he was asked about it. When I saw it, I shook my head and I said, you know, as a native Texan, we're getting embarrassed day by day by these idiot Republicans who are running the state. But what he said is that with his crime prevention efforts, they're going to do everything they can to keep rapists off the streets of Texas. Okay, here's the problem, Teresa. This is not Tom Cruise and Minority Report, where you are anticipating and stopping crimes before they happen. You can't stop a rapist before they commit a rape. Do you see the sheer lunacy of what Greg Abbott had to say?
It sounded like his response was literally on the cuff. I mean, the four-word phrase, do everything we can, was essentially saying I am 50%, 40% likely, which is again a probability anytime you put that in a statement, that they will combat crime or violence. I mean, it's honestly, I would have rather him have received that information from the police commissioner, or, I mean, I don't know if it had made sense if it had came from there, but then we would have at least said, okay, where's the plan? It's idiotic, the entire statement. But again, this is the Republicans trying to find a reason to really amplify their abortion bill. They're tough on abortion. They're tough on women's rights. They don't believe in a woman's right to choose. And I just hope, that the Texans that live in that state are really, advocating, and talking to their legislators and just really trying to figure out another means, to protect their rights.
Let me actually, so here's a quote, Mustafa. Let's be clear, rape is a crime. And Texas will work tirelessly to make sure that we eliminate all rapists from the streets of Texas by aggressively going after and arresting them and prosecuting them and getting them off the streets. But if they've already raped somebody and impregnated them, how are you going to stop them from raping somebody?
I mean,
and in fact, you can't stop a rapist until after they committed the crime, which means they committed the rape. Do you see how stupid this dude is?
Governor Abbott lives in like this alternative universe. We've seen him on a number of different issues where he's so far away from the reality of what everyday people are dealing with that this statement is just one in a laundry list of others. There are about 500,000 women, and then there are a small percentage of men who are raped every year in our country. And that's just the ones who report it. So we know that the numbers are even higher than that. It's impossible for you to stop rape. You can put certain things in place. You can put educational programs in place. You could actually take away alcohol in the state of Texas. I'd love to see you try and do that because we know that that sometimes is associated with it, but it is an act of violence. And for him to say that is another form of violence that's being placed on these women who have to carry a child that came out of violence. So it's just mind-boggling, some of the things that they say and they do that is so devastating. Imagine the trauma of having to look at a child and knowing that that child wasn't conceived out of love, that that child was conceived out of violence. Out of the these horrible acts that we know happen far too often. So yes, we can put some things in place to help to hopefully shrink that down, but it's impossible to stop it. And once again, you have men trying to regulate and tell women what they can do with their bodies.
Oh, Roland, it gets worse than that.
Scott, we know doggone well how these Republicans, if their daughters got raped, trust me, they're not sitting here saying, yeah, you're going to carry that baby with your term. Let's just stop.
Well, I don't know if after 6 weeks or before 6 weeks, a woman even knows that she's pregnant. My understanding from my research is that most women don't even have symptoms of pregnancy up to 6 weeks. But rape is about power. Watch this. Rape isn't about sex or sexual attraction. It's about power. So think about every power relationship between a man and a woman. You have security guards, or prison guards who rape women in prison. You have employers or supervisors or even husbands, if you will, who rape women. You're not talking about, there are a lot of situations that rape occurs in. It's not like you have a rapist on the street and he rapes 10 women and it's you're trying to find that rapist. So let's be real clear on the circumstances and the power vacuum upon which rape occurs. But the 6 weeks, the irony about the Republicans is this too. They want everyone to have these babies, but they don't want to pay for those babies if the families can't afford it. They don't want you to wear a mask or to even make you get vaccinated, but that'll cause you to lose your life. It is a paradox. It is a hypocrisy beyond belief when it comes to where these right-wing conservatives are on life and death in this country. It's a huge hypocrisy. Just think about it. It makes zero sense. And so Governor Abbott has never made any sense. It'll be interesting to see after he signed this bill where he is in the polls and when he's up for re-election.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, Seek.com is a black-owned company founded by Mary Spio. It's a virtual reality company where you can actually go there, look at their virtual reality content. A couple of devices they actually have for sale that you might be interested in. First off, their VR headset allows for you to slide your phone right in and experience that virtual reality content on their site or watch a 360-degree video. Also, there are 360-degree headphones, tremendous bass, you can use it for gaming, Bluetooth, phone calls, you name it. Folks, you can get these two at Seek.com using this promo code RMVIP21, RMVIP21. You buy one or the other, or even both, a portion of the proceeds come back to us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. And so we want you to check out Seek.com and give it a try. Folks, COVID has impacted a lot of people, especially those who are in the medical industry. We don't think about, though, morticians. First of all, nearly 700,000 folks have died from COVID. Well, that means that they are going through funeral homes. And the reality is, funeral homes and morticians are dealing with this in a significant way. Last year, we talked about this on the show when we had Black Funeral Home on. They were talking about what kind of PPP they were going to get, the kind of the equipment. Well, the reality is many are not fully protecting themselves as a result of this. Since the start of the pandemic, about 130 Black morticians have passed away. Funeral directors implement safety policies to protect themselves and their staff from the virus, but just like doctors and nurses, some have become a casualty of the virus. Joining us now is the president of the National Funeral Directors and Morticians Association, Harry P. Close II. Harry, glad to have you here. That issue right there, how has this been happening? Has it been the result of coming in contact with folks who have died of COVID, or has it been the fact that funerals have become COVID super spreaders?
Well, it's a combination of about three different things. One, Mike, can we get this on? One, COVID is not on the death certificates at all. And so in order for our members to really function, we have to make sure that we treat everyone like they have COVID. Second of all, yes, the funerals are a spreader, but at the same time, you don't know who has COVID. Most people don't go to the hospital. It's an airborne virus. It's on your clothes. It's under your shoes. Someone might have a mask, and they cough. If it's caught in the mask, great. But if not, it's spread out, and then the droplets fall on the ground, and we're walking in it. Our colleagues were just so intimidated with this virus. Now, since the Delta virus, we lost 4 funeral directors in the last week with the Delta virus or the Delta variant of this COVID-19. So it is really a major issue that most people don't realize. That's just the funeral directors, 130. We're not talking about the staffs.
And so, what are your members asking for? Are they asking for assistance? Are they? I mean, first of all, do your funeral homes have the right protections and things along those lines.
I think that we have it, and I want to thank you, because the last year around May we were on, and there was a shortage, and because of this segment we were able to really get inundated with numerous suppliers. So the issue now is not the PPEs. The issue is that we have people in this country not using masks, not taking the vaccine, and unfortunately we're in a profession that we can't know what that family member has. If someone else has COVID, they died of it, or if it's not on the death certificate, that means that the family's exposed to it, and they're in the funeral home when the funeral director is serving that family at a time of need. That we're the last stage of the health system, and unfortunately, what we're trying to really emphasize across the country is for, particularly in our community, take that vaccine. Yeah, there might be a less than 0.001 that might get affected with the Delta variants who've taken the vaccine, but there's still many people, even in my own industry, just like the nurses and doctors, that some of them have not taken the vaccine, and we have a national effort to make sure our members are making sure that they take the vaccine. Last week, I'm in Maryland. Our governor had made it clear that private companies and corporations can mandate it to their employees. And yesterday, President Biden made it very clear that as a corporation, a private company, that you can mandate it. You know, it's common sense to me. Everyone in this country has had, and even your listener audience has had, someone that died of this, I'll say, plague, COVID-19. And then you have people who are in the same family that saw the suffering not taking the vaccine. It is free, it's available. We're now working with the White House to try to have an initiative to have funeral homes be a place of receiving the vaccine. It's kind of like a catch-22. Some will say, oh, you're having a massive group, and that's going to be a spreader. Well, let it be in another room, you can take the vaccine. We're trying to come up, if it's killing the funeral directors, this thing is real. Now, we have been working with the White House in the last 4 or 5 months. We are on the advisory committee for the FEMA for reimbursement, which we're glad is working well. But when we really think about why should we be reimbursed for a funeral when we can be able to stop people from dying of this major disease and this virus. And so we're now looking at another point, letting people know that most people didn't know that many funeral directors have died, and particularly in the African-American community. And if you go to your vital records, get American Freedom Act or through Social Security, you will find how many have died. That category on that death certificate says occupation, funeral director, mortician, embalmer, which means we're more exposed than our colleagues on the front end. But what I'm saying and asking your listening audience, we know we have family members. I had one of my children, it took me months to convince them, you need to take the vaccine. And, you know, this thing is
wait a minute. Here you are dealing with this, and it's not like you want to sit here and have to bury a child early, and you're going through this, and you had to convince even one of your own children?
Own child. Yes.
Wow.
And I can't use the vernacular that I really use, but you just hit it. You know, I'm doing something that I have to do, and you're seeing the results of what I'm doing, and you still question. You know, and I had to look at her, and I had another son that was ill. That it was just it hits home. And I'll just say, like I say at my church, I can't even wrap my head around how people are seeing what's happening in the world, and there's an opportunity to prevent it. And we're saying as funeral directors, we don't want this type of business. We just have to do it because we've been called to do the end health system. But we're saying if we can prevent it, and there's opportunity for prevention, why not do it? It just seems common sense to me. And, you know, we heard all the stories across the country when people who were advocate of not taking it, and once they get it, they're saying they wish they could have. That should be a wake-up call. But apparently It is not. And that's why I'm glad APY came out today, letting them know this is killing the funeral directors and their staffs. So I don't know how real it can be when ministers and funeral directors are dying at a level, particularly in our community. And I'll say to my majority community colleagues, it's affecting them. They just are not as a larger number, but I've known numerous funerals I've gone to for my colleagues across the industry.
That is absolutely terrible. Eric Close, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot. And again, one of the reasons why this show matters, I'm glad to hear after you were on last year that people got the message and came to the assistance of these black funeral homes.
Thank you. And it's always a pleasure to be around another fraternity, man.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I know. Michael Imhotep is a little hurt by that, but he'll get over it. He'll get over it, Harry.
Well,
06, brother, 06.
It's okay, my friend. We're all in the divine 9.
Yeah, well, I let Michael know it's Alpha and Divine 8. So.
Well, I always tell them in church, there's only 2 divine organizations in the Bible, Alpha and Omega. But I'm not ready for Omega chapter.
Yeah, that's right. Precisely. None of us are ready for Omega chapter.
Yeah, that's why we're on today. Thank you so much for what you do for this nation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, Seek.com is a black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. It's a virtual reality company where you can actually go there, look at their virtual reality content. A couple of devices they actually have for sale that you might be interested in. First off, their VR headset allows for you to slide your phone right in and experience that virtual reality content on their site or watch a 360-degree video. Also, their 360-degree headphones, tremendous bass, you can use it for gaming, Bluetooth, phone calls, you name it. Folks, you can get these two at Seek.com using this promo code RMVIP21, RMVIP21. You buy one or the other, or even both. A portion of the proceeds come back to us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. And so we want you to check out Seek.com and give it a try. Another black man in Texas dies in police custody. His family files a wrongful death lawsuit against the Texarkana Police Department to release Darren Boykin's 2019 arrest footage. 23-year-old Boykin was arrested because he was a suspect in a string of petty thefts in the area. He's arrested and put in the police car driven by Officer Jerica Weave.
Yeah, you can turn over. It's easier if you sit up to breathe. I can't sit up.
Do you guys need me to transport him back over to your guys' police cars?
Oh, we're just going to transport him.
Who's going for us, Mom?
Huh? Yeah. Here, sit up.
What's his name?
Jason Williams. 4592.
Warner out the back.
Thank you, Brandon.
You ran the whole way?
From the nursing building.
Yeah. Got your steps in, that's for sure.
She's tough. Can you please knuckle my mom door right there? Oh, this is your house? Behind me. Huh? Behind me, brick house. No. You're going to be getting a phone call at some point downtown. Jason, you can do that then. Oh, if your family, listen to me, if your family wants to come out here and pitch a fit, though. What are you saying date of birth is? What's your date of birth? 8592. 8592. Okay. Let's go ahead.
He ran all this way and then he acts like he can't.
Stand up.
Can't function.
Okay, sir. Stand up. You can function.
It's either you're standing up or you're dragging. All right, cool. Come on. Let's drag him.
I'm trying to get up.
Come on.
Let me get my hands up.
You want to put him in the backseat of mine? Or you got one over here? Can you, hey, can you push the unlock button on my driver's side?
You can get in by yourself? Let's try. Okay.
Do you have anything on that side? No. Do you have anything on that side?
Didn't you lie about your name, dude? Come on.
You put me in the car?
All right, get in.
All right. This is gonna be y'all's felony suspect too.
Get in.
I've seen the You help me, I can't.
Get in or I'm gonna pull you in.
So you good?
During the 20-minute ride to the precinct, Boykin repeatedly tells Officer Jerica Weaver that he could not breathe. She believed he was doing what they call felony faint. It's not until Officer Weaver arrives at the police station she realizes something is wrong. The lawsuit accuses Officers Weaver and Brent Hobbs and Sergeant William Scott of violating Boykin's civil rights by being deliberately indifferent to a medical crisis, resulting in Boykin's death. An autopsy ruled that Boykin died of natural causes and notes complications of sickle cell trait. Terrain.
You know, when your client tells you some of the things that the officers say to them when they're being arrested, you don't want to believe them. And that, I'm just being honest about that, right? Because you want to believe that the officers are acting in the best interest of everyone. But what the introduction of body cameras have done for policing is shown us the indifference that they have when they are interacting with suspects who are still citizens. And they still are responsible for caring for them and making sure that they are treated appropriately. I mean, they are innocent until proven guilty. But these officers are out on the street acting as judge, jury, and executioner. And when you watch this video and you watch it all the way through the car ride, he's trying to tell her he can't breathe. And she doesn't even take the time to pull over to check on him. And she is so surprised when she finds out, when she tries to get him out the car when she gets to the station. So the charges against her are appropriate. And like I said, this is a new day that, if you recall, when we first started talking about introducing body cameras and having officers wear them, officers were initially turning them off, forgetting to have them on at all. And now there's so many states that have laws that make it illegal and can charge officers with crimes for not having their body cameras on, because this is showing us what's really happening on the street, the complete indifference and the taunting of these individuals who are still people with rights. So this video is incredibly upsetting, but the right thing is happening here in Texarkana.
It is very hard to look at this, Brittany, and the reality is this here. You know, he's dead, and the man is telling you, but now they create felony faint.
Felony faint. Roland, I mean, it's every week. Per usual, I'm disgusted, I'm disappointed, but I am never surprised. This is a constant and ongoing reality with policing and dealing with those who are sworn to protect and serve. And we know that the police, they're not serving us. They're not serving people of color. They're not serving working class folks. You know, they serve the ruling class and they protect property, not life. You know, as the report said, they were deliberately indifferent to a medical crisis. And how many times do we see police being deliberately indifferent? And it doesn't matter if it's someone who's been identified or classified as a criminal, or if it's someone that's a young sweet boy and violinist like Elijah McCain. We're not viewed as humans, right? Just by virtue of having black skin, we are not viewed as humans. And I always say this, but if this is what policing is, we do not need it. I'm really tired just in general of the entire concept of policing as it has existed and evolved, because it's not fair, it's not equitable, it's classist, it's racist. And we all know that getting arrested shouldn't be a death sentence, even if someone is involved in petty theft. Again, thinking about why someone is involved in petty theft, right? And doing what they need to do to survive because they've been historically marginalized and not provided equal access. You don't stop crime by bloating police budgets and hiring more officers. You stop crime by providing access to resources and distribution of money and opportunities, right? And we know that the people who are doing the most serious of crimes never see time behind bars, or very rarely do anyway.
You know, it is just very difficult when to have to keep doing these stories, Michael. I mean, how hard is it? How hard is it if a prisoner is if someone is detained, if they are handcuffed and they're complaining, I cannot breathe, to pull over and double check?
Exactly. But see, that's what you do when you think that you're dealing with somebody who's a human being. That's what you do when you have, that's what you do when you have somebody who, even though you suspect them of a crime, you still have compassion for their humanity. Okay, here in this situation, it appears, and I haven't read all the details on it, but on the surface, it appears they had no compassion for his humanity and it just deemed him as being guilty. Okay, and not even respecting his humanity when he's telling them numerous times that he can't breathe. Then they use felony faint. I haven't heard this term before, felony faint. Now I've heard excited delirium because that's what they tried to say that Elijah McClain died of. Excited delirium, which is the same thing they tried to say that George Floyd died of. But all three of them were fine before police started messing with them. Now, what the question I have, and I haven't been able to find this, is they said they suspected that Boykin was responsible for a series of petty thefts and sought to take him into custody. But what was the probable cause? What was the probable cause here? I know you said he was running and things like this, but what was the probable cause to make you think he was responsible for a series of petty thefts? I'm still trying to find out that information.
And that is the thing, Brittany, that again, every time we see one of these stories and they come up, it's like the same thing. And the bottom line is having police officers who treat people with basic respect and dignity.
I mean, and that's the problem, Roland, that they don't. They literally do not view us as human. And again, I mean, as a historian, just going back to the earliest iterations and forms of policing, it was that we weren't human, right? It was that we were property, and it was to catch us and return us back to the owners of the property, right? And we truly haven't strayed very far from that. And again, we continue to see that policing is not grounded in protecting and serving. It is not grounded. It's certainly not grounded in protecting and serving Black and brown people, impoverished people. It's oftentimes to protect the ruling class and to protect property, which is why we've seen several times the National Guard being mobilized, right, when property is damaged, but we certainly don't see any type of care whatsoever when Black bodies are dying in custody. It's unfortunate, and again, it causes us to continue to re-examine this call for defunding the police.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, Seek.com is a Black-owned virtual reality company founded by Mary Spio. That's right, VR is all the rage. The ability for you to be able to actually be immersed in the space to feel what's going on. Imagine being at a concert and you're watching the concert, but you're actually in the seat in the concert. And so that you can able to see that great videos and all kinds of different things on Seek.com. Using their VR headset, you simply just drop your phone right into here. And again, you're able to then immerse yourself in the experience right there. Also, of course, they have these great headphones right here. The 360-degree headphones. You can use this for gaming. It's Bluetooth. You can talk on them as well. The bass is tremendous. I love jamming these when I'm on airplanes. Folks, you can get these by going to Seek.com using the promo code RMVIP21, RMVIP21, where you can get these. And when you purchase one or both of these, a portion of the proceeds comes back to us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. You know, we support Black-owned businesses, and it's the Black-owned businesses giving back to us as well. So go to Seek.com, CEEK.com, to get these items. Let's go to Minnesota, where after reviewing the case, the former Minnesota police officer who shot and killed Daunte Wright, they faces a more serious charge. Former Brooklyn Center officer Kimberly Potter was already facing a count of second-degree manslaughter. Thursday, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison added an upgraded charge of first-degree manslaughter to the existing count of second-degree manslaughter. The officer shot Wright, who was unarmed, during a traffic stop. The incident was recorded on police body camera video on April 11th. Potter claims it was an accident, saying she thought she had a taser in her hand and not her service weapon when she pulled the trigger. What do you make, Terrain, what do you make of the aggressiveness of AG Keith Ellison? Obviously, a huge win for them with the conviction of the former cop who killed George Floyd.
This new era of prosecuting police officers after George Floyd, we're seeing something unprecedented. Officers used to mistreat defendants and just walk away with complete immunity. And after what we saw in Kentucky regarding Breonna Taylor, we're seeing attorney generals across the state, like the attorney general in Colorado in the McLean case, just come forward and say, you know what, enough is enough. Officers, they are charged with a duty, and then when they act outside their duty, they need to be held accountable. So this is really good for the public. This is saying we're going to hold these officers accountable.
Again, this is what happens when you have, Brittany, you have attorney general or district attorneys who are not in the pocket of police in the unions, where they are examining the evidence.
Absolutely. And we've known for a long time with all of these cases, the evidence is always damning, but it's a matter of actually doing the due diligence and prosecuting appropriately and letting our friends walk away. And I'm glad that we're finally entering this new moment. It does seem like this moment is unprecedented, because we know that oftentimes these police officers are not convicted, let alone even charged. And they're able to literally shoot first and ask questions later. It's I feared for my life. I made a mistake, and that's always seemed to be enough. And it's not anymore, Roland. And I'm glad that we are seeing these police officers being held accountable.
Michael, again, we talk about DAs matter, AGs matter.
Right.
We're seeing this in the case of Minnesota.
Absolutely. And we just saw this in the case of Elijah McClain as well, because the Democratic governor appointed a special prosecutor who's the state's attorney general. State's attorney general came back with 32 counts against 3 officers and 2 paramedics. And here, once again, this is an example of how elections have consequences and elections matter. Okay, so we have to make a direct connection between protests and issues that we're protesting against and who actually resolves those issues. The police reform, DAs, all of that, prosecuting rogue police officers, et cetera. The one thing that I have concerned, and I've covered a number of different police cases and police shootings. The one thing I have a concern about is what happens when this white female police officer, if she gets on the witness stand, and if they have a jury trial, because in this state, I'm not sure if she can have a bench trial, because that's a trick that they pull also, is have a bench trial with just the judge, that's the juror, as opposed to a jury of 12, to take the public out of it and take the emotion out of it. What happens when she gets on the witness stand, Kim Potter, and breaks down crying and sobbing and say, I didn't mean to shoot this boy and all this stuff? That's my concern, so we have to see how this turns out. But, I agree with the charges, but we have to see how this turns out.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, Sync.com is a black-owned virtual reality company founded by Mary Spio. That's right, VR is all the rage. The ability for you to be able to actually be immersed in the space to feel what's going on. Imagine being at a concert and you're watching the concert, but you're actually in the seat in the concert. And so you can able to see that great videos and all kinds of different things on Seek.com. Using their VR headset, you simply just drop your phone right into here. And again, you're able to then immerse yourself in the experience right there. Also, of course, they have these great headphones right here. The 360-degree headphones. You can use this for gaming. It's Bluetooth. You can talk on them as well. The bass is tremendous. I love jamming these when I'm on airplanes. Folks, you can get these by going to Seek.com using the promo code RMVIP21, RMVIP21, where you can get these. And when you purchase one or both of these, a portion of the proceeds comes back to us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. You know, we support black-owned businesses, and it's the black-owned businesses giving back to us as well. So go to Seek.com, CEEK.com.
to get these items. All right, folks, the R. Kelly trial resumed today after a 3-day recess. A woman identified as Sonia testified that R. Kelly raped her after promising her an interview with the artist. The victim claims Kelly held her captive for more than 3 days in his studio when she was 21 years old. Sonia was the 8th accuser to take the stand against R. Kelly during the trial. Other accounts have often included physical and sexual abuse details, and 5 of the people testified that they were underage during their first sexual encounters with Kelly. I had somebody who tweeted me today, Faraji, who was not particularly happy with our panel calling out R. Kelly last week, and they felt that they literally put up free R. Kelly, and that we should not, and the brother literally said we should not be attacking another black man. And I'm sitting there going, are you not paying attention to what in the hell has actually been said?
Come on. Come on.
Yeah, it literally happened.
I mean, first and foremost, any joker who says that R. Kelly should be free, I mean, we should cancel them. I mean, when you go to that situation and when you look at what that young lady Sonia said, who's a 39-year-old woman, and what she said R. Kelly did to her at 21 years old, and if we understand the impact that sexual abuse has on anybody, but particularly on women, you would not be so quick to call that man a genius of any sort. Of any sort. You would not be so quick to say, oh, we beating up on a black man. What I'm concerned with is that this case, as gruesome, as graphic, as disturbing as this case has been, that it won't push the needle far enough to remove our love for the pimp culture and the exploitation of women in music and media. That's what I'm concerned with. That it's easy to cancel one man, but can we cancel a behavior? Can we cancel a whole mindset that hate women and that use of women, that abuse women? And so when you look at this case should not just be fodder. And look, and I'm gonna say it like this. Have you heard about R. Kelly case since it started? Other than this platform, I'm gonna keep it real. I mean, unless you go online, you search it, you read it, you follow it, other than this platform, we have not really had a very deep conversation outside of this show to talk about what's been going on in this trial, what's been said, and the implications of our love for this type of man, and then more importantly, our embracing of a culture that has destroyed women. And so this case is so big, and it's so important for us to have these conversations. And I truly appreciate you, Brother Roland, for constantly keeping us abreast about it, because we're not talking about it. We're talking about surviving R. Kelly, and then that conversation died down. But when you listen to the stories from the people that work with him, about the rules, to the victims themselves, nah. You want that joker under a damn jail cell. You would not want to listen to his music. You damn sure wouldn't want to fly with him, and you would not want to have anything to do with R. Kelly. Robert Sylvester Kelly. Trust and believe.
Greg, of course, it is innocent until proven guilty, but frankly, people can still weigh in on what they're hearing, and what we are hearing is shocking, devastating, sick, and demented.
It is, Ron. I mean, of course. I mean, who could say it isn't? But what we have with the R. Kelly case, and it's now 13 years since he was first brought to trial on the same allegations, similar allegations, a lot less detail, of course, than now. What we really have is a car crash at the intersection of culture and law. We, as people of African descent in the modern world system, certainly those of us in the Western Hemisphere, more specifically the United States, have unfortunately continued to fall victim to, and now just really occupy, a culture that allows for our own dehumanization. And the culture is in the language, the culture is in the music. And so, you know, and now legally, this guy should be under the jail. Of course, that's a no-brainer. However, just like somebody reached out to you and said that, the hope of his defense team is there's at least one person like that on the jury. And the bigger issue, let's say he goes to jail from now on, either here or in the subsequent trials that will come up after this. Let's say that happens. That's one guy. The deeper question is, what about every hip-hop artist, every R&B artist, every soul artist, every cultural artist, every movie producer, every video maker who has reinforced the culture of dehumanization, not only against black women and men, but against even the very notion of blackness, and then wraps it up into, I'm just expressing myself. See, this is the problem. And then until we address that underlying problem, then the difference for me between R. Kelly and Jay-Z is just a question of, well, who did the most egregious acts and the shock of the individual incident that can send one to jail. But when I turn on the radio, quite frankly, I can't tell the difference.
Reese.
Well, if you were upset, then let me give you something to be mad about. If you can identify with R. Kelly personally, then you're a motherfucking degenerate. Point blank period. And maybe your ass need to be up under the jail right along with R. Kelly. Okay, so let's, instead of talking about protecting the legacy and the black man who was sitting up there allegedly until proven guilty, I guess, raping and terrorizing and kidnapping and abusing women, men, children, families. If you can justify that because he's a black man, there's something seriously wrong and demented with your mentality. There's nothing wrong with us talking about it. It's something wrong with your ass and how you think, okay? So why don't we put a little bit more emphasis on protecting victims, on protecting girls, boys, people, black people, the community? How about that, from a sexual predator? Why don't we put more emphasis on that than the fact that you like R. Kelly's Bump and Grind or 12 Play?
Come on.
Check yourself. Don't come over here with that mess. Check yourself and your fucked up mentality.
That's right.
Period.
I'm trying to see. There was at least one MF, at least 4 Fs.
Sorry, not sorry. Because we're not going to normalize that kind of comment.
Oh,
you are literally trying to check us for talking about testimony in the court of law under the threat of perjury or of criminal penalties, and you're trying to check us because we're talking about what this man, this degenerate, this pedophile, this sexual serial predator allegedly is doing? Check yourself. Don't come over here with that. Check yourself, look in the mirror, and we need to be finding out who the hell your ass is around. If you think that what he's done is something that's redeemable, that should be protected, that should be shielded, what the hell is wrong with you? There's something wrong with you, not us, and not the Roland Martin Unfiltered show.
That's right. That's right. Hey, Roland, it's okay. Reese got to say that. In the words of Miss Lauryn Hill, I add a motherfucker so you ignorant Negroes hear me. In other words, you can't.
That's the only way we can communicate. I'm sorry.
You know,
Intellectually, it didn't work. It didn't register with intellectual. So let me throw one of those up, and maybe you'll hear it, and you can hate tweet me, and you can fry me up in the YouTube comments, and you can say whatever the hell you want to say. But I said what I said. Fuck R. Kelly and you too. How about that? That's not unbiased. That's my opinion.
Gotcha. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, Seek.com is a black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. It's a virtual reality company where you can actually go there, look at their virtual reality content. A couple of devices they actually have for sale that you might be interested in. First off, their VR headset allows for you to slide your phone right in and experience that virtual reality content on their site or watch a 360-degree video. Also, there are 360-degree headphones, tremendous bass, you can use it for gaming, Bluetooth, phone calls, you name it. Folks, you can get these two at
seek.com using this promo code RMVIP21, RMVIP21. You buy one or the other, or even both, a portion of the proceeds come back to us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. And so we want you to check out seek.com and give it a try.